Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's talk. I'd like to begin by thanking Abuna Yusuf for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about a topic that is really very important. This is the topic of atheism. Atheism has always been part of recorded human history. That means we've had atheists all throughout the history of humanity. They have always written against the existence of God, forwarded arguments and defense for their point of view. They've created varied definitions for God, but mostly this traditional type of atheism has been limited to the academic discipline of philosophy. So in the past, if you went to university to study engineering or other disciplines, you weren't really subjected to atheistic kind of thinking. However, today, atheism has taken on a brand new face. It's called New Atheism. It's a very aggressive and very fundamentalist worldview. What gave rise to this new type of atheism is the event of 9/11. After 9/11, three very prominent people, two scientists and one journalist, wrote many books speaking out against religion, all of them claiming that religion is the root of all evil. And if we were to get rid of religion, we would be able to rid society of evil. The new atheists are different from the traditional atheists in that they are not really interested in or concerned to argue against the existence of God or a belief in God. They have already declared that God is dead and that science has buried him. New atheism is a very, very strong belief. It's a worldview that believes in materialism, which is the only means to obtaining truth. They argue that only science, by studying the material world, the physical world, can lead to truth. There is no need for God because all of life is a result of a non-intelligent natural force. That means that all biological life, all trees, all plants, all animals, and especially all human beings evolved from the first one-celled amoeba without any kind of intelligent input. So this worldview argues that the human being is a result of a purposeless and natural process that did not have him in mind. This theory of evolution states that all that exists is a result of an unguided and mindless process, and that our existence, the existence of human being, therefore, is a fluke, and rather than a planned outcome. Of course, the worldview of the theist is we believe that we are created in the image and likeness of God, that God actually created everything to prepare for the pinnacle of his creation, which is the coming of the human being created in his image and likeness. The materialists argue that the purpose of evolution is to show how you can get life started and get all the creating done without God. So what is meant by evolution? It's very important to make a distinction between micro and macro evolution. Microevolution is we all believe in it because there is empirical evidence for microevolution. It can be investigated, it can be studied, and it can be, evidence can be forwarded for it. It involves change and development and variation within the limits of a given species. For example, bacteria develops resistance to antibiotics. So we know that over a period of time, the resistance to antibiotics will take place. Microevolution is not the issue. The issue is with macroevolution, and the whole theory of materialism, this worldview hinges on the fact that macroevolution is 100% true. And what is macroevolution? It is the type of evolution that results in the coming into existence of new organs and new structures and new body plans and qualitatively new genetic material. So first life, the first life that appeared on Earth must have been generated spontaneously from non-living chemicals. This is what they believe, that non-living chemicals resulted in creating life, that one-celled amoeba undergoing this evolutionary process over millions and millions of years resulted in my being here and your being here. And this whole magnificent human being is really a result of a total fluke, because we evolved from an unguided, naturalistic, purposeless process. I keep repeating that because that is the theory of materialism, that everything fundamentally is explained by the material world, and we don't need to postulate God or have God participate in this process at all. So tonight, we're not going to look at the arguments for and against this worldview. I am presenting you with the worldview that is out there today, and we're going to look at 9 implications of this worldview. If you hold this worldview to be true, what must you also hold to be true? So I'm going to outline for you 9 very significant and very dangerous ideas that result from this worldview. And then hopefully in the future, we would be able to hash them out and open them for discussion and further understanding. So there's macroevolution and there is the death of God. And that is the worldview that we are looking at its implications. So implication number 1, if you say that there is no God, then you must also say that there's no absolute morality. In a material world that is devoid of God, a very physical world, there can be or should not be any kind of talk about right or wrong or good or evil, because material doesn't know right or wrong, good or evil. We are a process of this unguided, we are a product of this unguided process. So we are 100% material or physical. So how can we talk about right and wrong? What is the bar that would help us determine that? Morality then becomes very relative. It is subject to personal opinion and opinion of government. And when you say the opinion of government to determine what is good or evil or right or wrong, everybody should shudder in fear as to what the consequences of such a belief could and does result into. So because morality is a matter of opinion, in fact, in society today, it's very difficult to speak about morality because everybody will jump down your throat and say, well, you know, what is moral for you doesn't have to be moral for me. Then we're free to choose a world of Mother Teresa, or we can choose a world of Nazi Germany. It really doesn't make any difference at the end of the day. Fyodor Dostoevsky, in his book on the brothers Karamazov, did say that once you get rid of God, once you take God out of the picture, then really anything goes. You can behave in any way that you want, because there would be no moral restrictions put on our behavior. A recent debate I was listening to, 2 very renowned scientists, one an atheist and one a theist. And the atheist stood on stage facing the hundreds and hundreds of university students and says, you know, we need to get rid of religion and all its moralizing, because it's because of religion we have so many people in jail today. And then he said that, he stated it as a fact and moved on to the next point. And of course, what he's saying is that the reason people are in jail is because we have morals, and if we get rid of morals, then people don't need to be punished, which is just a bunch of nonsense. So if there's no God, implication 2, and there's no absolute morality, then there is no absolute truth. There is no reason to be talking about truth. Evolution and God are mutually exclusive. It means that if you believe in evolution, you cannot believe in God. If you believe in God, you cannot believe in evolution. If you accept evolutionary theory, and the atheist would say, and you should, if you are an intelligent, thinking human being. So we have to pay attention to the wordings. If you believe in evolution, you are labeled as an intelligent, thinking human being. So what happens if you don't believe in evolution? If you don't believe in evolution and you believe in God, then the label put on you is you are irrational and delusional. So there is no happy medium. If you want to be an intelligent, thinking human being, in fact, they say that all good thinking leads to atheism. On the other side of this coin, if you believe in God, you are irrational, you don't possess good thinking, and you are a deluded human being. Very derogatory attitude. People who believe in God are looking for a crutch, like the way Freud argued, that it's the crutch for the masses is religion. If you're looking to God, then you are just a weak human being. You're not brave enough or strong enough to face the fact that this life really has no purpose behind it. You're just here as a fluke of nature, and you should just be brave enough to face this reality without having to postulate God. Another implication of this materialistic worldview is, well, when you have science is the result of good thinking, and theism, or a belief in God, is a result of complete delusion and irrationality. They argue that science is the only road to truth because it is based on facts and on evidence, while religion, or people who believe in God, they just believe based on blind faith. So they have completely redefined what faith means. And in fact, even Merriam-Webster dictionary has added this new definition to the word faith by claiming that faith is just a blind belief in something that you can never substantiate or never give evidence for. So that this concept of faith, this new concept of faith, has been redefined, pitting again science against religion. Science being evidence-based, religious beliefs being totally irrational. However, we read in the Gospel of St. John in chapter 20, verse 31, St. John writes, "But these things are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life through him." There is no indication in the Old or the New Testament that God has ever asked man to accept him on blind faith, ever. And they try to look at the example of Thomas who doubted the resurrection and say, see, Jesus himself said to him, "Blessed are those who believe and have not seen." It's like Jesus is pushing that agenda that, you know, if you are a good Christian, you should just believe without ever having to seek evidence, which is totally not true and totally out of context. Belief in God is quite rational, and it is evidence-based. So because they do postulate that, you know, belief in religion and God is totally irrational, so they move on to attack the New Testament. And they say that the New Testament is not a historically liable book. The resurrection did not happen, of course, because there's no such thing as miracles. There are no sound reasons to believe in the New Testament. which is a book that was written long time ago by very different people, different personalities in very old cultures. Whatever worked for that time period has absolutely no place in society today. There is, however, tremendous evidence for the veracity of the New Testament, its historicity, and for the resurrection of Christ. The evidence which we need to study and need to be able to talk about it intelligently exists. And in fact, when atheists take the time to consider the evidence for the veracity of the New Testament and the resurrection of Christ, they become very devout Christians, in fact. And one such person that many people might know of is Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel was a very devout atheist. He rejected this whole notion of God. It made him shudder to think that he or anyone that he loved could possibly believe in God. And when he was pushed into looking at the evidence for Christianity, he became a very devout believer, left a very lucrative profession. He was a very successful journalist and became a Christian apologist. So he travels the world to talk about Christianity. So looking at the evidence for the New Testament and the resurrection of Christ is something that atheists, materialists do not spend the time doing. They just mock the New Testament and they mock the idea of the resurrection and miracles, and people think that they have something of importance to say. Moving right along, materialism puts a whole new question around the value of human life, the value of the human being. So human beings, they maintain, are like all other animals, are a product of an unguided, purposeless natural process. Therefore, it is very arrogant of us, human beings, to think that we hold a more special place than, let's say, a cat or a dog or a pig or an elephant or any other species on this earth. In fact, we're no different from pigs. The only thing that differentiates us and the animal kingdom is that we just happen to have bigger brains. And what they mean by brains is they mean the physical brain, because they deny that there is a mind, because to say that there is a mind is to say that there is something immaterial. So they deny that there is a mind that human beings employ to reason and do logic with and do science with and the whole bit. So what young people are being taught today is that the human species has no more inherent value than any other species. Human value is redefined and reframed. We are not a special creation of God. We are not created in God's image. We are just a fluke of nature, just like all the other animals. We have no special purpose for being here. Interestingly enough, a few years ago, I was watching a documentary that was put together by an evangelical group. And the man that was hosting the documentary, he went to university campuses to talk to university students and professors. And he was asking them about their belief in God and belief in materialism and the whole bit. Interestingly enough, the very last question he asked a number of different students and professors is, if you're walking by a swimming pool and you see a dog and a man drowning and you can only save one of them, which would you save? I think he said your dog and a man drowning, which would you save? And the more often than not, the automatic answer was, of course, I would save the dog, because this materialistic worldview has really put a whole question mark on the value of the human being. And then we're accused also as Christians of another form of arrogance, is why Christianity? So Christians are so arrogant to believe that they have a special claim on truth. All religions, they maintain, speak of love. They're all very similar. They've all helped people cope with life. What makes you as a Christian think that you have this claim on truth? So we are too arrogant to think not only that man is a special creation, because of course he's not, and to think that we know the way to the truth through Jesus Christ. So what do we do? What do? They go out with Christian beliefs. Of course, the whole attack of materialism, I forgot to tell you this, is not against Islam or Buddhism or Taoism or any of the isms. The attack is 100% against Christianity. And the God that they are attacking is the God of the Bible. So it's not the God of Islam or anything like that. So let's get rid of Christianity. God is dead and buried anyhow. Get rid of Christian teaching and Christian moralizing. And let's bring in this whole new concept of humanism, which is a very elegant, that's the word that they use. It's a very elegant view of how we should live. And then there is this new push or the rise of new age spirituality, which Oprah Winfrey actually gave credence to. Oprah Winfrey is a very successful TV host, and she gave credence to this rise of new spiritualism, which of course carries with it its own very big challenges. And then now I'm on number 7, how can you believe in a God who is all good and loving and powerful, and yet he permits the type of pain and suffering that you and I experience and we witness all over the world. So what is the answer from a materialistic point of view? Well, there's no God, so why even question this, that there is any kind of loving God behind any of this? Man is a result of an unguided, purposeless process, natural process. Materialism knows no justice. It knows no right, it knows no wrong. That is life. That's just the way it is. Some people are going to be lucky and live the good life, and some people are just going to be unlucky, and you just have to grin and bear it. And that is the best way to be able to tolerate what you are experiencing in your life. You must find a way to deal with pain and suffering, but don't refer to God, because if you refer to God, then you're being cowardly and you're not being elegant. If you can tolerate your pain and suffering, then you're being courageous and you're being elegant. In words that have absolutely no meaning, giving the reality of what we are talking about. This is my personal opinion. It's the only personal opinion in this talk that I offer, that it's interestingly enough that the materialists who are speaking in this way and saying that we are a process of this purposeless, product of this purposeless process, and that pain and suffering, that's just the way it is. Some of us will live the good life and some of us will not. These are the very people that come from a very, very privileged background. They are renowned professors who hold very important chairs in very prestigious universities. They write numerous books that are translated into numerous languages, and they collect royalties from all of that. They're invited all over the world to speak. What do they know about economic injustices? What do they know about what people had to tolerate through the rise of communism and what it did to the human soul? They really don't have an understanding, or they don't seem to have an understanding of the gravity of that. Grin and bear it is just not an answer. It's also not an answer to say, well, that's the way God wants it to be. Pain and suffering impacts the lives of every human being that has ever lived and ever will live. It's a very tough issue, and it must be dealt with in a compassionate and an understanding way. And there is a very compassionate answer to that. And it's not God willed it, and it's not you have to grin and bear it. Too bad for you if you are suffering from famine, or if you're watching your children die from hunger. Well, just grin and bear it. A result of this is that society is working very hard to get rid of suffering. I'm not talking about getting rid of suffering in terms of finding cures for diseases or viruses, or this is actually the glory of God, that scientists can study these things and find a way to alleviate this pain and suffering. I'm talking about getting rid of suffering, which involves assisted suicide, involves abortions, involves sanctioning suicide right now, divorces, and just getting rid of anything that impedes your happiness, because your whole purpose on this earth, of course, is to be as happy as you can, because we all know that you're here for no good reason. You're going to live 70, 80, or 100 years, and then you're going to die, and that's the end of it. So your pursuit in life should be, well, me first. I need to be taking care of myself. So let's get rid of everything that stands in the way. Materialism killed God, and then it went on and buried him. And it has also, don't be surprised, it has also done away with human free will. Now, the materialists are saying human free will is just simply an illusion. You don't really have free will. You think you do, but really, in fact, you don't. Why? Because we are a product of an unguided natural process. There is absolutely no reason why we're here. The physical world does not know choice. So every thought that we have, every decision we make is a result of a chemical and physical process over which we have absolutely no control. So Mother Teresa was a great woman. It's her brain that made her do that. It wasn't really any of her choice. Hitler was an infamous human being, and well, his brain made him do what he did. It wasn't his free will. He wasn't exercising a free will. He just was what he was, and she was what she was. An article I recently read about altruism. Altruism, of course, are acts of kindness. So if you give your money to help the poor, or you give your time to help people, or you jump in a pool to save, hopefully, a human being before you save a dog, these acts of altruism, when they study the human brain, they see that when a human being does an altruistic act, a light comes on in different parts of the brain, different regions of the brain. And when they're not doing altruistic acts, these regions of the brain do not light. And they say, here, you see, altruism, your altruistic acts, you really have no control over them. It's just your brain making you do that. So people, you don't have any kind of free will. If you are a spiritual being, that's because of evolution. Evolution has resulted in making you a spiritual being. If you're a pedophile, it's a result of evolution. If you're a mass murderer, it's a result of evolution. If you're a saint, it's a result of evolution, because free will is dead. It is a delusion or an illusion. Richard Dawkins, which is the loudest voice of that worldview, the worldview of materialism, actually helped fund an advertising campaign on buses in England. I don't remember how long ago that was, but it wasn't very long ago, maybe a couple of years or so. I'm not quite sure about that. But what did the buses have to say? The buses said, God is dead, now you can finally enjoy your life. So science has killed God, so now human beings are free to live life outside religious limits. The implication here is, poor you, if you are religious, especially if you believe in the God of the Bible, you're shackled, you're imprisoned in this limitation. You're dealing with a God who's a despot, he's jealous, he's vengeful, and more importantly, What kind of a God gives us a sex drive and then puts all these limitations on how we can enjoy our sex life? He seems to be dictating to us what we can and cannot do in the bedroom. So now you're free. You have no accountability. And more importantly, you can enjoy your sex life in any way that you deem fit for you. Of course, we see that this type of thinking has helped people who are homosexual to say, I am born this way, and maybe they are. I'm not interested in talking about homosexuality or any other type of sexuality, but it opened up that discussion, and it led to the legalization of marriages and adoption of children. We also see today the whole gender identity agenda. Interestingly enough, if you go on the internet, you will see that people creatively have come up with a list of 52 to 58 different gender identities. Because really, why not? If we are a product of this purposeless process, and we're here as a fluke, why would you say that that there are only two sexes, male and female? That's a very biblical thing. We can be everything in between. We can have male and female, and we can have everything that comes in between. So if you have a minute, you can go check the websites and read 52 to 58 gender identities. I think Canada, on the government applications or government documents, they have 35 designations, which is mind-boggling. The last thing I want to talk about, and I can't talk about it very intelligently because I haven't really begun to read about it seriously, is artificial intelligence and where that is moving. That's branching off from materialism, and its artificial intelligence is being championed by a very highly renowned professor of history from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. His name is Noah Harari. He's written 3 very influential books, one of which is called Homo Deus. Homo Deus means man as God. And that is, I say I think because I didn't really take the time to verify this, but I think he argues that as early as the 21st century, artificial intelligence is going to develop so rapidly that man will become God. So the human being will be redefined again, and the whole issue of God will take on a brand new challenge. As you can see, our young people today are growing up in a society, especially in North America, that is challenging them at their very fabric of everything that they hold true. It's a very tough time to be growing up. There are many turbulent waters to manage, and we need to be able to have our young people to have the right tools to be able to address these very serious and very overpowering arguments that are presented by professors as facts, and our children don't have, or our young people don't have the tools to be able to debate it or to be able to even think about it. So in conclusion, I have 2 quick things to say. One is a statistic and one is a short story. The statistics show that 75% of young people leave the Christian faith after high school. And the reason expounded in the books is that when they go to universities or colleges and they meet these professors that they hold in very high esteem, they don't have the tools to argue against the statements that these professors make. For example, saying that the Bible is just an old document from the past and it has absolutely no value and no truth in it. How can somebody oppose a statement like this if they have never looked at the evidence? for what is really available to ascertain that the Bible has any kind of validation to it. So here's what it said, that the world today is dominated by an anti-Christian media and anti-Christian academia. So the media is anti-Christian. Media is very, very powerful. I feel sorry for kids today, I really do. If you watch your TV carefully, or your TV shows, or whatever it is that you watch, whatever you see on social media, materialism is in everything. It's all pervasive. And very importantly, documentaries, especially documentaries about nature and the cosmos, they are all founded on materialistic ideology. So they relentlessly attack the Christian faith. And one of the greatest tools that they use is the tool of mockery. If you mock me and I don't have the power to defend myself, I become very, very weak very, very quickly. And we have to teach our kids how to deal with mockery, because mockery really is a way of cheating. You're not really being rational and using evidence to support your claim. You're using mockery to humiliate someone else's beliefs. As Richard Dawkins would say to renowned atheist scientists, you really believe in Jesus Christ of the Bible, so like you believe he turned water into wine and he raised people from the dead and then he resurrected? Ha, ha, ha. Mockery. And if you don't have the strength of character to defend yourself, well, you become petty in their hands. We need to be educated ourselves to defend our faith. St. Peter said that we have to give an account for our faith. We have to. Jesus Christ sent his disciples out to spread the good news. We can't just be sitting on our couches going, oh, those atheists. We have to be able to understand our faith. We have to be reading. We have to be accumulating knowledge to be able to powerfully oppose or stand strong in the support of our faith. If we don't, we are encouraging atheism to spread even more, because we weaken the Christian faith. And we need to be teaching our children from a very young age. We need to engage them in conversation, have them understand what thinking is going through their heads, because they may not be aware of it. So we can equip them to go out into the world. So with this, I will tell you a story. It's a story of a little boy who immigrated to the United States with his family. They came from a very, an Islamic country, very devout Islamic family. The kid was raised in this, they weren't fundamentalists or anything like that. They just really believed in Islam, and he loved praying the 5 or 7 prayers that they do every day, loved reading the Quran, memorized whatever it is they're expected to memorize from the Quran and all of that at a very, very young age. He also had a very charismatic personality, and he would go to, well, first, his mother would always warn him, says, stay away from those Christians because they're not very good people. Look at the way they dress, look at how much they drink, look at their behavior. These are not good people. Do not allow them to influence you. You're a good Muslim boy. Take care of yourself. So he, when he was in high school, he would go to his the Christian students and he would ask them about their faith. And then he said in his biography, he goes, not one soul could answer any question I put forth. Explain to me the Trinity. I have no idea. What is this incarnation thing? I don't know. How can a God, what does that mean that a God comes down and you beat him to death and you hang him on a cross? What does that mean? And he was never able to find an answer, which really cemented his idea that, these Christians think they believe something and they really have no clue what it is that they believe in. Until one day in university, they had spent a day, I don't know, studying something. And then at the end of the day, the whole student group decided that they would go out drinking. Of course, this is Nabil Qureshi, that's his name, God rest his soul. He died at a very young age. He refused to go drinking. Of course, he's a Muslim. And also a young man by the name of David decided not to go drinking. So Nabil thought, oh, I'm going to rip this guy apart, just the two of us. I'm going to ask him all these questions and he's not going to be able to answer me. And I'm going to show him what a fool he is for being a Christian. Well, lo and behold, that every question he asked, David was able to answer, and to answer reasonably and logically. And they spent numerous hours in discussion. And this really turned Nabil Qureshi's life around. He ended up, I think, within 2 years of that event, not just becoming a Christian, but he had to give up his family altogether, and he became a Christian apologist. So he went on the international stage to defend Christianity. In fact, he would address Christian audience and say, okay, I'm going to teach you how to explain to someone what the Trinity is. I hope that I've been able to highlight for you what is really happening in society today and how serious what is happening, how serious it is. It puts a very big question mark on many things. Our children are caught up in this academic pull and tug between atheists and theists. And one of the main issues is that it is, it presents itself that if you want to be smart and if you want to be a scientist and you want to be considered as part of academia, there's just no room for God. You have to kill him yourself and bury him yourself as well. I hope that in the future, if there is interest, that we can get together and hash out these big issues, be able to discuss them and talk about them and learn how to defend our faith together. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Abuna again, and good night.